Hello, welcome to the City of Coburg's Development Code Update Virtual Open House. The virtual open house will be open between October 30th and November 5th of 2017. It serves as an alternative to the physical community meeting that is happening on November 2nd at City Hall, and is for those who cannot attend or would prefer to attend a virtual open house instead. The content in both will be the same. Obviously, there'll be a different dynamic in attending either, but we welcome feedback from everyone and are trying to get as much feedback as possible. I'd like to start by pointing out the city's special projects webpage on the city's website. I do this just to point out that the development code update is one of several projects. There are other projects happening that you may be more familiar with or that you have heard of. For example, the visioning process. It is related in that some of those outcomes will feed into the development code update. They're happening at the same time though, and we've been in communication with the folks undertaking that, but the development code update is a separate, distinct process. The project is funded by the Transportation and Growth Management Program, which is jointly funded by the Oregon Department of Transportation and Department of Land Conservation Development, jointly administered by those agencies. Their mission is as follows: to promote transportation system and development pattern that results in balanced multimodal system that enhances opportunities for people to walk, bike, and use transit, to increase convenience or availability of alternative modes of transportation, to provide alternatives to or delay the need for major transportation improvements, and to provide alternatives to or delay the need for an expansion of the urban growth boundary if possible. The project has been going on for almost a year now. Some of the products that have emerged from the process and which are linked on the virtual open house include a community outreach and engagement plan, the Coburg Development Code Update Evaluation Memorandum, and a code update matrix. As you read through these, the idea is to present some transparency for the process, to see how concepts with early outreach developed into code update concepts and specific language, which is reflected in the draft that is being presented. Our project schedule is laid out in this slide. We've essentially truncated everything up to this point and just listed some of the products that have been delivered, some of the events that have occurred. You'll notice in red the things that are in draft that we're working on currently. Those would include the community meeting, this open house, a joint planning commission and city council work session that will occur in mid-November on November 16th, and developing the code amendment draft itself in preparation for that public official meeting. Going forward, we'll develop final drafts based on the feedback that we get from the public and from public officials. And the hope is that by late winter, we will have a final adoption in place. This could have happened earlier, but the holidays create a little bit of complication for hurrying things along. So by February and March, we're hoping to have an adopted code. This slide provides an overview of some of the community outreach that we have done. I mentioned that the community outreach plan is a product that was our first product and has guided this whole process. We started with stakeholder interviews, talking to folks with specific interests, whether that was real estate or construction or experience on committees within the community or just residents in general. We were able to interview and ask questions about concerns that folks had about the code update, things they wanted to see addressed and revised, and that's where we started. We have had several Planning Commission work sessions presenting some of that initial information. Our first community meetings were held several months ago. That was an opportunity to do essentially an identical process to what we're doing now, but at an early point in the project where we presented some of the early concepts and got some great feedback that has influenced our process for sure. We also circled back with our stakeholders with some early drafts of our code matrix, which outlined some of the ideas we had from what we were hearing and got feedback on that. We're now coming back again to the residents of Coburg, trying to reach out as broadly as we can, and we will go to the Planning Commission and City Council in a joint work session in November 16th. Following that, we'll have public hearings, which anyone can attend and provide feedback at. Our code updates were scoped to address very specific issues. Although we're addressing a number of issues, they are discrete. And there have been instances where some of the issues that were important to people we were not able to address in this particular update because we had developed with TGM a very specific list of issues to develop. So our focus in our outreach was the opinions and perspectives that individuals had about those specific issues. These include adjusted residential lot sizes, lot coverage, and setbacks to improve land use efficiency. That was a really important one. Multimodal design standards for the light industrial and highway commercial districts, standards for mixed-use development, standards for various space-efficient housing types, including co-housing, cottage clusters, and accessory dwelling units. As we've gone along, we've eliminated several design standards for commercial condominiums as a concept that had some traction initially, but we were not able to establish substantial substance for that update and determined to discontinue pursuit of it. Standards for mobile food vending and temporary structures for special events was really redefined. We have included some code language around food carts. Bike parking design standards, reviewing minimum parking requirements for reduction potential in all zones. There is a proposal for new parking standards in Coburg. Incorporation of transportation demand strategies. Codification of the Coburg Loop Implementation Plan from 2009, including some design standards and provisions to require path construction by new adjacent development. Standards for bike boulevards. Codification of relevant elements of the TSP. Standards for complete street design, road spacing, and driveway standards and spacing, incorporating IAMP and TSP standards where applicable. IAMP is the interchange study that occurred several years ago and had implications for the area around the Interstate 5 interchange. Right-of-way use, design, and maintenance standards, including street trees and transit stops. A unified development ordinance incorporating and reconciling with the Coburg subdivision ordinance. Improved definitions as identified by staff in LCOG review of the code. Graphics to help people understand zoning code concepts and design standards. Hyperlinked tables of contents, a hyperlinked table of content, index, and cross-references. An evaluation of campus industrial designation to determine if zoning district is needed. This is a zoning designation that exists, doesn't have any actual acreage zoned. What we found was that campus industrial is an important and needed zone, and we've added some language to address that. At our first community meeting and as part of the first virtual public open house, we administered a survey and got some detail back from those who participated. We had approximately just under 25 individuals who participated in our survey, asking questions related to these items that I've read to you, the 19 scoped code issues. I wanted to present some of the key findings from that survey for you. In this slide, you'll see that the characteristics that are most important to the individuals who we surveyed include historic character, small town, rural character, local schools. In this slide, you'll see the topics that are most important to address in Coburg's update include lot standards, housing types, code clarity, and downtown parking. The individuals who completed the survey were informed that residential lot sizes in Coburg vary from 4,500 square feet to 16,000 square feet. Oregon's model code suggests that there be a minimum lot size somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 square feet. Coburg's current minimum is 7,500 square feet. Respondents to that question suggested, the majority of respondents noted that the city should leave lot size minimums as they are. Other responses included bringing it within the model code range and also investigating the issue further. This is really interesting feedback. Another question that followed was asking residents to identify what residential areas within Coburg city limits they felt best exemplify Coburg's ideal residential character. The neighborhoods that were identified as exemplifying Coburg's ideal residential character include the southeast and the northeast neighborhoods. Of note is the fact that 36 lots under 6,000 square feet exist in these neighborhoods. This is the area that has the lowest average lot size. So the areas that seem to represent this historic character, this small town character, have smaller lots as a key characteristic. One of the things that we also found was that some of the areas that were most attractive to Coburg residents, again, were under 6,000 square feet, or included lots that were under 6,000 square feet. This slide includes a few examples of those within the community. Of note is the way that some of Coburg's most recent developments have occurred. This is at Rustic and Shane. The dwelling units per acre of this site is 4.16, where your minimum lot size is almost 10,000 square feet, and your average lot size is about 10,500 square feet. The slide provides another example. This is at Abbey and Austin, where those sizes are even greater. A part of this is related to the requirements around septic for lot sizes. That is a requirement that is no more. Part of the reason the lot size requirements are being revisited is to try to readjust, resubmit the question of whether this is the historic character that Coburg is looking for, or if that character is something more like, in fact, as the residents responded, the densities that are seen in the lot sizes, that are seen in the northeast and southeast parts of town. One last slide on lot size. This is a visualization to help residents get a sense for what something like a 5,000 square foot lot looks like. These are 2,700 square foot homes, 2,200 square foot homes, and a 2,000 square foot home with different configurations on a 5,000 square foot lot. The concept here is to convey that a fairly sizable home can fit within a lot with a reasonable amount of yard, and really fits within the concept of the rural community, the historic character of the community. Incidentally, 6,000 square foot lots are what are proposed for the majority of Coburg, which would be another 1,000 square feet larger than this. But for new development in newer parts of Coburg, 5,000 square foot lots are proposed. Coburg zoning does not currently allow the following housing types. Identify housing types that you would support. In this question, residents provided their preference related to housing types. Cottage housing was a popular option, as was family housing on smaller lots and single family attached. This slide presents the results of a question related to parking, about a proposed strategy to reduce required parking for new development within downtown and in the city. This emerged from an acknowledgement that some of Coburg's parking requirements are onerous. They are relatively high compared to other comparable communities, much higher than the model code, and sometimes very onerous for businesses, like the mom and pop shops that can't make it pencil out based on the parking requirements that the city has. Residents noted, a number of residents noted that the current parking regulations should be maintained, but that exceptions should be provided. Another sizable amount of respondents noted that the number of parking spaces should be reduced for new development. Finally, questions about transportation regulations related to city streets and bikeways. The question was, what are most important to you and your family? Standards for bike boulevards was the most popular. Requirements for street trees and other landscaping was also popular. The development code implements the Coburg Loop implementation plan, and so there are elements related to street design standards that anyone interested should check out within the code update. We hope you'll take the time to review the Coburg Development Code updates. This is draft 2.2, a draft that will be revised based on feedback that we get from the public and will be presented to the Planning Commission and City Council on November 16th. We know that it's a large undertaking to review the entire code. The virtual open house is set up to guide you through specific topics that direct you specifically to certain sections that you may have interest in, and highlight the literal changes that are being proposed. We hope you'll take a moment to look through those, to follow the links, and then provide any comments you have related to that. We've been able to benefit from the input from the public so far. We feel we have a draft that comes pretty close to reflecting all that we've heard, and please be in touch with any questions that you have. There's contact information within this open house, and thank you for your time.